What up, is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads again? DeAndre Swift jersey, new subscribers. We will be giving that away when we hit 2,000. We are going to be doing one of the most controversial, I think it's one of the most controversial, potentially, videos that I've done so far. It's because it's QBs. It's QBs and it's the 2022 class. We're going to go through kind of my tier 1 players here. And I do think, especially my number 1 overall, I do think I'm going to get some hatred for it. But that's all right. I will tell you why. And so the biggest thing, let's talk about what in Superflex, 1 QB, where do I believe some of these players to go, these top 4 players, the top 4 quarterbacks. Quarterbacks, if you look at startups, about rounds 1, rounds 2, half of those startups in Superflex are quarterbacks. And so quarterbacks have this extreme value in Superflex. And if you have a couple of them that are super good, we're talking Herbert, Mahomes, even if you've had Rodgers or Breeze or Roethlisberger in the past, you know how valuable it is having a quarterback for 5, 10, 15 years. And then you just don't see that in any other positions. You don't see players sticking around for 10 to 15 years. And really, I think quarterbacks are the most important position. And then why this is going to be controversial is because this class is a frustrating class to have right after you had the 2021 class, which I thought was going to be a really good class. And even previous classes, I thought they were pretty decent as well. So you're talking about quarterbacks who have this extreme value, but yet this might be one of the only Dynasty, really super flex leagues this year, I guess you could say. This might be one of the only years that you would have a quarterback not drafted 101. And I mean, 101 without a bullet was Trevor Lawrence, and then even 102, 103, you're talking about Fields and Wilson and Lance. And so you saw all these different elite prospects, you could say, coming out of the draft. And we get into the 2022 class, and we knew that this was going to be a rough class. And so where do I see some of these guys going? I see some of these guys going into that in Superflex, middle of the first, because there's going to be teams that are desperate, and I could even see some of the 1 or 2 of these guys going like 102, 103. There might even be a team that reaches at 101 and says, you know what, I need a quarterback. I don't care. I'm going to go desperate project here. I don't care if I struggle with one of these quarterbacks in 2022. 2023 will hopefully bring me better prospects, at least in the running back field. The running backs are going to be amazing in 2023, it seems like, and we hope that stays. So they're okay with performing bad again in 2022. But I don't like performing bad every single year. So we got to have, let's just go to it. Let's go to it. Number 4, and this is probably going to be a lot of people's number 1. But I will tell you what. Kenny Pickett is not immobile, but when we look at the quarterback sphere even last year, I told you Mac Jones was not going to be a quarterback 1 in fantasy. He was not going to be a top half of the first rounder for me because he is a really good, Mac Jones I thought was going to be a really good NFL player. But who cares you care, but it doesn't matter as much as if you're good in fantasy, especially because we're in fantasy leagues. So would you rather have Jalen Hurts or Mac Jones? It's like, well, Jalen Hurts is a worse quarterback, in my opinion, by far, but a better fantasy quarterback because of the rushing ability. You're talking about 40 yards equals 100 yards. You're talking about a touchdown equals a touchdown and a half, and that adds up over time. You see all these elite fantasy quarterbacks, and you really have one pocket passer, Tom Brady, and then you have Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, even Dak Prescott, and Kyler Murray. Aaron Rodgers can run. It's like you have all these quarterbacks that are actually either average or above average in mobility. And so, number 4, Kenny Pickett. He was 3rd in the Heisman race. He's a redshirt senior, so he's a little bit older. 4,319 yards, 42 touchdowns. He did have 223 yards and 5 touchdowns. But in this class, and what's going to make it controversial is I am looking strictly for that. I don't know what in the world my cats are doing over there. I'm looking strictly for a guy that's not going to give me 10 to 15 years. I'm looking for that 3 to 5 year quarterback. I'm looking for the next Jalen Hurts. And I was one of, I feel like the only people that wanted Hurts over Love because I saw Love. I was like, I don't see this. I see some of these quarterbacks, these pocket passers being more of this Love type versus Hurts, who is going to give you really good, potentially like a couple of years. And when you have those couple of years, you start trying to sell. You sell for a quarterback that maybe is a little bit less good for the couple of years, but has that longer longevity. All right, anyways, so Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. Again, I guess one of his biggest downsides is hand size. Downside is hand size, yeah. But he's 6'3", 210. He is a good passer and might be the number one quarterback taken in the NFL draft. Number 3, and this is something, again, I think that I've seen him 5, 6, 7, kind of in that area, but it's Desmond Ridder. He's out of Cincinnati. He had 2,180 yards rushing in his career. He actually has a really good touch, a really good passing ability. Sometimes, I think one of his biggest weaknesses is sometimes he doesn't go through progressions. He's in an RPO offense in Cincinnati, so you see him. Quarterbacks that go through RPOs, I feel like sometimes do have a little bit of a hard time transitioning into standard, like we're going to go through pocket passing. But, I mean, you have Kyler Murray, who, again, is master of RPO, and you have all these quarterbacks come out of RPO, and it just means that they might be running more, and that is okay, because I like a quarterback that can run, and I think Desmond Ridder does have a good head on his shoulders when it comes to throwing some good passes, some good touch, and some good velocity on the football, and so Desmond Ridder is my number 3. Progression and reads, again, probably his weakest point. Number 2 is Matt Corral. He's 6'1", 205 pounds. He lost Elijah Mitchell in college, but, he had 1,000 yards, over 15 touchdowns in the last 2 years. So we're looking again at rushing. That is what I am going to be, like, if you told me in 2022 I can only pick one attribute that I want on my quarterback, it's going to be rushing, because these quarterbacks, again, you're going to have some of these guys that maybe the next... This is going to be a class like you had the, what the heck was that class? It had Barkley in it. It had E.J. Manuel. It had Geno Smith. Like, again, was Geno Smith a good quarterback? No. Was E.J. Manuel a good quarterback? No. But were they mobile? And you saw what Geno Smith, he can't throw the ball, but you saw what he actually did when he could actually run the ball. I mean, he can actually run. And so I'm looking at these quarterbacks saying, I want a quarterback that can run, and hopefully I get the next Jalen Hurts. That's my goal. Because then let's say 18 months goes by, I can trade this quarterback for a different quarterback. For a quarterback that is a little less volatile on his scoring and his rushing, and to get a better quarterback that is just I'm trying to think of a good example. I mean, that's why I mean, Trey Lance, he's kind of into these projects as well, but I mean, Trey Lance has this huge upside because of his rushing ability. So I'm trying to think of a good quarterback that I would want. Not Baker, of course, because Baker has turned into a pile of poop. But maybe like a Tua. So Tua right now is kind of in this fence, and we don't know how great he's going to be. But let's just say Tua started getting a little bit better. And I could trade one of these quarterbacks for like a Tua that might have more longevity, but Tua seems to always be hurt. So that's maybe a bad example. But anyways, Matt Corral, 6'1", 205 pounds. His accuracy sometimes is his downfall, and he has I don't know why he does this. He just has moments where you just go, why did you do that? He's very Kirk Cousins in that ability, just that ability, not mobility, but that ability of like, what are you doing, Matt Corral? Like, that was not good. And then he has other moments that you go, wow, that's why he's going to be probably a top 15, 20 pick in the NFL draft. And so draft capital will matter. The quarterbacks, if they're drafted in the first round, it gives them a bump up. So if one of these guys drops into the second, third, fourth round, they're going to move down. Just like even, I'm not saying that Kellen Mond is that, but Kellen Mond moves down because he was drafted later versus of course, a Mac Jones. You never take Kellen Mond, who has more mobility than Mac Jones, but I did say it wasn't crazy far off. Kellen Mond just doesn't, they do not like him there. They do not like him at Skull City. But number 1, we're going to go with the project, but we're going to go with the guy who has the highest upside. If you told me a quarterback finishes in the top 5 in fantasy 1 year, or even 2 years, or 3 years, or whatever it might be, well, probably not more than 3 years, because he's not a master rusher, but he is a really good mobile quarterback, is Malik Willis out of Liberty. He is 6'1", 215 pounds. We are talking about a project. Think about Trey Lance. This is kind of the Malik Willis thing. You might not see Malik Willis next year. You might not see him. So maybe a quarterback that might not be a draftable quarterback. Maybe it's like, I'm not going to draft Malik Willis. I'd rather draft a good running back or wide receiver. But Malik Willis may be even a good trade for post 2022 season. So we have to figure out, well, where does he go, first of all? Now, if he goes to a Pittsburgh, you're probably going, well, crap, he's probably gonna he's probably gonna be the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh, and so his value is gonna shoot through the roof. There's a couple places where some of these quarterbacks go, and you're gonna be like, ooh, I like that. Where are they gonna go? But he is physically gifted. He is very athletic, and his legs are. He can scoot, and so he's a project. He's inconsistent. He's anything that you would talk about when you're talking about a project quarterback, a guy that is going to need 12 months. I mean, he's going to need it. You see Trey Lance, he has these glimpses of hope of like, wow, that could be a top 5, top 10 quarterback in Dynasty. But then he also has glimpses where you're like, ugh, is that a starting quarterback? And so you're going to have that with Malik Willis. You're going to have that with probably Trey Lance. And so those are my top 4. I think Malik Willis is a out there pick. And when I say out there pick, because, I mean, he could fall to the second, third round, and then all of a sudden we're talking more into Kellen Mond territory. But I think right now, if we were saying right today, we got to go through combine and stuff like that and pro days, and some of these guys are going to go to the Senior Bowl and stuff. So this is what I think right now. Things can definitely change. But Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Desmond Ridder, Kenny Pickett, those are the top 4. But this class in general will probably not have, in my opinion, if I had a top 3 pick, which I don't even have a top 3 pick in any of my leagues, which I think that's a good sign, right? I think my earliest pick is 9. 9. Yeah, I think it's 9. Dynasty Dads, I'm 11. A couple other leagues, I'm 10. Stupid third place. I hate third place. Got 12, or I'm 12 in one league. Woo! And then I think I'm 9. I think 9 is so I have all my teams that are kind of projecting up. And so if I had a top 5, 6 pick right now, I'm not touching one of these quarterbacks. I think Malik Willis would probably fall in a 2 QB league. Well, let me go through. Breece Hall, would rather have him. Traylon Burks, rather have him. Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Spiller, Garrett Wilson. Drake London, 6. So, and then Jameson Williams was my 7. That's probably where I would probably fit in. Maybe one of these quarterbacks is at 7 if we had to draft today, which would have been super dumb. But 7 is probably where in Superflex. In 1 QB, I'm taking David Bell. I'm taking Rashard White. I'm taking George Pickens. I'm taking Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm taking Johan Dotson. I'm probably taking, honestly, Jameson Williams at that point. I mean, early second. You're talking about probably a mid-second is the first quarterback being taken. And there's going to be other guys that start to rise in the positional rankings too over some of these quarterbacks. Unless one of these quarterbacks absolutely blows up, and we were talking about all of a sudden turns into a top 5 pick, and you just start seeing these. You're going to have to see them blow up, and you're going to have to go back and tape and go, okay, this is what I see. I can see where this guy has a really, really good chance at being amazing. Right now, it's like 50-50 on a lot of these guys. It's like, they could be Jalen Hurts. They could be Geno Smith or EJ Manuel. Or they could be Kellen Mond. They could be like a Dak Prescott. Like, ooh, which one do you want? Like, so it's like not 50-50 on Dak Prescott, of course, but they could be something amazing, and they could be something that literally does not start maybe ever in his career. And so that's what you're getting with this quarterback class. One of the weakest quarterback classes I have ever seen so far. There might be some in the future. But again, this is Marcus Dynasty with Dads. If you've made it this far, please like the video. Please comment. Say hi. I'll say hi back. All right. Peace out. Take care.